Good morning to all my dear students. Today I am going to discuss you from your main textbook unit 1 and the name of that unit is the last lesson. Okay, what is the name of your main textbook? And that is Flamingo. Okay, your first lesson, the last lesson. Okay, before I start with my lesson, I just introduce to our narrator. And who is our narrator of this unit, the last lesson? Alphonse Daudet. Alphonse Daudet. Now here is the name of Alphonse Daudet. Alphonse Daudet, who is a short novelist and short story writer also. Actually this story was set in the middle of the Franco-Prussia War. Franco-Prussia War 1870 to 1871. Here is the description of Prussia and France. Okay. District of France is Alsace and Lorraine and Prussia. In Prussia, at that time in Prussia, parts of Poland, Germany, they were existed at that time. Now we just known as the country, nothing else. Okay. Before we start, just introduction of our Alphonse Daudet. Alphonse Daudet was a French novelist and short story writer. The last lesson is set in the days of Franco-Prussian War. Franco-Prussian War 1870-1871, in which France was defeated by Prussia, led by Bismarck. Prussia then consisted of what now are the nations of Germany, Poland and parts of Austria. In this story, the French districts of Alsace and Lorraine have passed into Prussian hands. Read the story to find out what effect these had on life at school. It means just here is a war. In short, we can say like that, here is a war between France and Prussia. Now, which parts of the Prussia was there? At that time, parts of Austria, Germany and also Poland were the part of the Prussia. And what about the French? French districts are Alsace and also Lorraine. Now, here is a war between two. Here is a war between two. And who was defeated? To whom? Just like Prussia was winner. Prussia was winner. And French was defeated. France was defeated by the Prussia, which was led by the Bismarck. Bismarck was there. Okay. Before we start our unit, I just summarize the whole unit. Here is a one young boy whose name is Franz. Here is a young boy whose name is Franz. And his teacher name is Mr. Hamel, Master Hamel. Okay. Now what's the atmosphere of the school, bulletin board and Viva la France. These are the clue points for you and we deeply move on these points. Now we start with the Franz. Franz was a young boy. He didn't want to go to school early in the morning. Due to his temptation, he just thought like that today's atmosphere is so bright, chirping from the woods and also drilling of the Persian soldiers. And yet he resisted his willing power and ready to go to school. But what was the atmosphere of the school before he reached the school? Then in the middle of the way, he just noticed that, he observed that such a crowd stood by the bulletin board. Now what is the bulletin board? In the town, there was a very big bulletin board and that bulletin board, there was the order from commanding officer, drops and also such bad news came from 2 ears. So, friends thought like that, what was the bad news right now? For 2 years we have got very bad news. Now what would be the matter right now? He just thought like that and directly reached the school. Now when he reached the school, he observed the school, he noticed the school, the atmosphere of the school was totally changed. Which type of atmosphere was there? Just like he saw that whole the school was very silent, as quiet as like a Sunday morning. No the sound of the desk, no the sound of the scratching pen, nothing, no hustling, no bustling. So he was totally surprised, even though little ones were not repeating the sound which was recited by the teacher. So he was totally wondered about seeing this atmosphere, and then after he thought like that something must be wrong. He very silently entered in the room. He saw all the students were occupied their place already. The teacher it means Master Hamel was moving like this and this with the iron ruler. And when Hamel noticed that Franz, he thought like that Hamel scolded me due to I was always late, and also I didn't learn the rules of the participle. It means a particular your grammatical point participle. So he very silently sat on the bench, and he observed that his master was so kindly, so patiently taught all the students which he had never observed, which behavior he had never observed of his teacher. Now everyone was sitting very silently. They were very sincerely studying also, the little ones also, and also the other students. Now what about the last bench of the classroom? At the last bench always emptied. But today the scenario was changed. So many villagers, elders were sitting at the last bench. Now we observe also that. Then after his master Hamel announced that today was my last lesson, and due to the order has come from the Berlin. The order has come from the Berlin, which was the capital of the France. Okay. The order has come from the Berlin that onwards, it means tomorrow, there wasn't any French language speaking in the town, and also no one can speak and no one can write French language. Okay. Now it means it is ban of French language. If anyone want to write, if anyone want to speak. In school also, the students were not taught any French language. They must be taught only and only German language, and that order passed by the Prussian soldiers. Now at last, when his teacher Mr. Hamel observed that the sound occurred by the window, nearby the window, he just thought like that now Prussian soldiers came over here. So he just lay down his face and also and wrote also on the notice board, and that word is Vive la France. Vive la France means long live France. Now Franz understood why his teacher wearing a finest clothes, just like Sunday clothes. Particular that clothes were worn by him only and only competition of the school and also prize distribution of the school. But today why he was wearing these clothes? Due to it was the last lesson of his own self. Okay. Now before we start, line to line, paragraph wise, we just read all the lines and then after explanation of all the lines. First para of your textbook. I started for school very late that morning and was in great dread of scolding, especially because Hamel had said that he would question us on participles and did not know the first word about them. For a moment I thought of running away and spending the day out of the doors. It was so warm, so bright, the birds were chirping at the edge of the woods, and in the poem-filled back of the sawmill, the Prussian soldiers were drilling. It was all much more tempting than the rule of participles, but I had the strength to resist and hurried off to school. Now here Franz was very scared of the scolding of his Hamel, due to he did not learn the participles, and he just thought like that whenever my teacher asked me about the definition and about the rules of the participles, then how can I explain? How can I explain that rules of the participles? So he tempted by the early mornings scenario, just like very bright sunshine was there, and also chirping of the birds in the woods. Woods means forest, not woods means forest. And also at the edge of the woods. In the open field back there was a sawmill. There was a sawmill and Prussian soldiers were drilling at that time. Drilling, it means exercise, practice themselves for the soldiers. Okay, then after he just resisted himself and tried to hurriedly reach at the school anyhow. Now second para, when I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. For the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. The lost battle, the draft, the orders of the commanding officers, and I thought myself without stopping, what can be the matter now? It means, now when he tried to reach the school, at that time he observed some crowd around the notice board. Now what would be the matter from there? He just thought like that, and from the last 2 years, they had a bad news came from these bulletin boards. Which type of bad news? Just like the lost battles and also the draft, also the order of the commanding officers. So he was just stopping in his thinking, and there was only one question arised in his mind, and that question is, what can be the matter right now? At the time when he was thinking, one blacksmith noticed him and he just uttered a one single line. Then, now on the paragraph, then as I hurried, but as fast as I could go, the blacksmith watcher who was there with his apprentice reading the bulletin called after me, "Don't go so fast, Bob." Now what is the meaning of Bob? Bob, it means in French language, Bob means boy. You shall get your school in plenty of time. Now this is the exact line which is spoken by that blacksmith, and what is the name of that blacksmith? Then watcher is the name of that blacksmith. Okay, but blacksmith was not alone at that time. He was with his apprentice, means one learner was also with him. So then as I hurried by as fast as I could, it means I reached very fastly, very hurriedly at the school, and one blacksmith pointed me and just uttered a one line with his apprentice, just like, "Don't go so fast, boy, don't go so fast, bub. You have a plenty of time and you could reach very early, so don't worry about that." Now, what will happen? I thought he was making fun of me and reached M. Hammer's little garden all out of breath. I thought when he uttered that line, you had a plenty of time. At that time I thought like that he made a fun of me, but actual sense he was not made a fun of me. When I reached Mr. Hammer's garden, now Mr. Hammer's garden means what? There was a school, there wasn't a garden, but the accommodation of the school has a one garden, and the window was facing a garden. That's why when he was reached at the garden out of breath, very fastly, very panting, and at that time he observed that, what he observed that, third para, usually when school began, there was a great bustle which could be heard out in the street, the opening and the closing desk, lessons repeated in unison, very loud, with our hands over our ear to understand better, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. Now here is the description of your school atmosphere. It means general school atmosphere. Which type of atmosphere the school has? Now same description is here. Usually, generally, the school began, there was a great bustle and hustle. It means movement. Bustle means movement. Here I will also make you aware about the synonym of the hard words, okay. Bustle means movement, one type of sound which could be heard out in the street. It means that sound which was uttered in the classroom, uttered in the school building, automatically reached out of this street also, but now that was not happened today. Then after, lesson repeated in unison, each and everyone repeated the unit in unison, very loud, with our hands over our ears to understand better, and each and every student just try to understand the unit summary which was explained by the master Hammer. So they try to close their ears like this and try to understand, try to make themselves better understand from the word of the Mr. Hamel. And the teacher's great ruler with the iron, he just moving up and down, move fro and move here and there, rapping a ruler on the table, just like tap the ruler on the table. But now it was also so still. It means this scenario was not there in that school, in which school that this Franz was studying. Now the school was too much silence, too much, it means very still means very peaceful. He had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen. But of course, that day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. Now he was trying to tell us like that. He depended on the noise. It means whenever he tried to peep out in the class, he tried to enter in the class, he just took the support of the noise which was spoken, which was uttered by the students, and behind the teacher's eyes he just sat on the seat. But now the condition, the situation was totally changed. There was a very peaceful atmosphere. Whole the classroom was very still. Now what would be happen with him? Now the M. Hamel noticed him, observed him. He just entered in the class. And what would happen? We will see now. But of course that day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. Through the window I saw my classmates already in their places and Mr. Hamel walking up, down with the terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and go before every day. You can imagine how I blushed and how frightened I was. It means he was trying to say you like that. I was very frightened, I was very scared when I entered in the class due to I am particularly depend on the noise of the class. But now the class was as quiet as Sunday morning. So I was very blushed and very frightened seeing that atmosphere. Now next, but nothing happened to me. Mr. Hamel saw me and said very kindly, go to your place quickly, little Franz. We were beginning without you. Okay, what will happen? He did not observe the rude and cranky behavior of Mr. Hamel. Instead of cranky and bad behavior, M. Hamel very politely, very patiently told him that just took your seat, nothing else. So he was again surprised seeing the behavior of his teacher. Okay, now I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Not till then, when I had got a little over my fright, did I see that our teacher had on his beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt and the little black silk cap, all embroidered, that he never wore except on inspection and prize days. Now, he jumped over the bench and took his seat, and he tried to overcome on his fright. It means he was very scared. So he tried to overcome his fright and tried to feel very peaceful in his inner soul. Now he saw his teacher. Now which typicality he saw? In his teacher dressed very finest clothes, just like which type of dressing sense his teacher had. Then he had on his beautiful green coat. What's the color of his coat is green. His frilled shirt, frilled it means decorated. His shirt was decorated and the little black silk cap, all were embroidered. Okay, it means coat, cap and also frilled shirt. Again I repeat, he was wearing a green coat, frilled shirt and also black silk cap, all were embroidery. That he never wore except on prize distribution and only competition. Now, besides, the whole school seemed so strange and solemn, but the little thing that surprised me most was to see on the back benches that were also empty, the village people sitting quietly like ourselves, old Hosser, with his three-cornered hat, the former mayor, the former postmaster and several other besides. Now, what was the observation of Franz? Then, after noticed his teacher, he was also observed the last bench of the class, which were always emptied, No one occupied that benches, but now he saw three men were occupied that seat. One is Hauser. Hauser is old and Hauser is the surname in France. Now one is sitting, one was sitting on the last bench and that is old Hauser. Then former it means पहले का जो mayor होता है वो former mayor, and also some other villagers were occupied that seats. Now what's the hat? What is the look of hat of Hauser? Now three-corner hat. He was wearing a three-corner hat. Okay. Everyone looked very sad. Hauser had brought an old primer, thumbed at the edges, and he held it open on his knees with his great spectacles lying across the pages. Now, everyone was full of sentimental due to there was a order from Berlin, and Berlin is the capital of the Germany. And what was the order passed by the Berlin? And the order was that no one can write or speak French language. Only and only language is German. Okay. So, Hauser was very sad, villagers was very sad, and all the students and all the little burbs, it means littlest one was also sad. Now, old Hauser sat with the old primer, Old primer, it means just like a primary base book. In that primary book, you just learn how to A, B, C of English language and just for alphabet of the French language. Due to he did not know how to speak French and how to write French. That's why old Hauser was open his old primer on the knees and then thumbed just like that, thumbed at the edges. It means just like twisted this type of corner pages. This is your phrase, students, and you must be memorize these phrases also. Okay, and open on his knees with his great spectacle lying across the pages. Now we just refer each and every line with the help of the spectacles. Now while I was wondering about it all, Mr. Hamel mounted his chair and in the same grave and gentle tone which he had used to me, said, "My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. The new master comes tomorrow, that is your last lesson, and I want to be very attentive." Now, what was the wondering aspect in the thought of the friends? Now, friends wonder that his teacher announced that this was my last lecture. Now, he was very hopeless, very helpless. He just felt very helpless and very hopeless, and at that time, he announced that this was my last lecture, last lesson, and I shall give you. Due to from Berlin, we had a order that to teach only German in schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Why in Alsace and Lorraine? Just because of Alsace and Lorraine was the district of the France. Okay. Now, next para. What a thunderclap, these words were to me. Thunderclap, it means very surprisingly. These words were very surprisingly for me. Now I realize why I had not taken these chapters very seriously and why I was not very much serious, very much sincere about my French language. Oh, the wretches, that was what they had put up at the town hall. Now I understood why the people was gathered around the bulletin board. It must be these news. Which news? That German news. That's each and everyone had to learn only and only German tomorrow onwards. Okay. My last French lesson, why I hardly knew how to write. I should never learn anymore. I must stop there. Then, oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lessons, for seeking bird's age or going sliding on the Saar. My books that had seemed such a nuisance a while ago, so heavy to carry. My grammar, my history of the saints were old friends now that I couldn't give up, and M. Hamel too also. The idea that he was going away, that I should never see him again, made me forget all about his ruler and how cranky he was. Now we explain here, he regretted for his study. Franz regretted for his study. He just thought like that, why I had not taken all the chapters, all the French chapters very seriously. Instead of paying attention to my master's teaching, I was just searching the eggs of the birds. I was searching here and there, not paid any attention to any unit, and also I was sliding on the river Sar. Sar is the river name, okay? Just memorize Sar is the name of the river. And that seemed a nuisance for while ago. But now I like too much my books. For these book, I just thought like that it is a burden for me. But right now these books are not burden for me. Now these books are friend of me, just like a saints. And also I didn't want to lose my teacher, Mr. Hamel. So I liked everything was very much. Now poor man, it was in honor of this last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes. Now I understood why the old men of the village were sitting there in the back of the room. It was because they were sorry to that they had not gone to school more. It was their way of thanking our masters for his 40 years of faithful service and of showing their respect for the country that was theirs no more. It means how many years Mr. Hamel worked there? Then 40 years. How many years? 40 years. 40 years of sincere service. Now all the villagers, old hosiers, little Bobs, littlest youngest, and also Franz was sitting in the class, just paid honor to M. Hamel, Mr. Hamel, particular for 40 years of his sincere service. Now later on I will explain the other paragraph, the remaining paragraph. Till then, okay, bye, thank you.